Hey YouTube, it's a Christian Kid, and just wanted to give you guys an update since my last video. It's been about a year and a half of my Stephen King collection. I only had about 5 books of his read last time around, and I've got a lot more read since then. And this is the first Stephen King book I read in actual paper format. I read Christine, I listened to the audiobook at least, but The Stand was the first one I read as a book itself, you know. And this is a great story. It's 1,150 pages. It's a Magnus Opum, I think is the word they use for it, and I was just amazed with this story. It's such a great story. First half is horror, second half is kind of a adventure story, but it's just an amazing story of survival, love, and the belief in a higher power that protects us all. And I just really love stuff like that. And this book was great. It's not my favorite Stephen King book. You'll see my favorite Stephen King book in just a little bit, but yeah, I would definitely recommend this. Big, long, drawn out at points, but Stephen King earned it with how well he wrote it. So, great book. Here's Cujo. I got this for Christmas. Uh, see the dog there. Saint Bernard, Cujo, got bit by a bat. King tries to bring in a spiritual aspect, saying there's a ghost involved and all that stuff, but it's a very literal book by Stephen King, a very literal horror book, and I don't think I've read a book by him that, you know, this could actually happen. A dog goes crazy, you're locked in a car. I'm not going to give it all away, but really enjoyed this book. It's only about 300 pages. There's about three and a half of these in one stand, when you consider just page number. But the story is very, and you just get tied into it so well, and the characters are, as usual, larger than life. Stephen King is probably the best character development author in a long time, and I just really enjoyed this book. I got it last Christmas, and I'm probably going to read it again at some point. You know, it's thin. It's 300 pages or so, you know, so it'll be a good read. This is the Stephen King Signet. Don't know if that comes in clear. I'm sorry if it doesn't. And I love this format he uses for his books. It's just to die for, with the banner, you know, and the kind of emboldened, and then his name at the top. I really like that, and you'll see that with my next book, which is Different Seasons. This is a novella collection of about 4 novellas. It's about 500 pages. Really enjoyed them. I didn't enjoy That Pupil that much, but Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, they made that famous movie. The Body, they made another famous movie, Stand By Me. Shawshank Redemption. I read another one in here, the last one, called The Breathing Method, and that's a real good horror story. That's a very interesting story, and I love it to bits. So yeah, once again, you see the signet. There he is on the back. He always looks so happy. Have you noticed that? He looks so happy, and you know, and I actually like that, though, that I'm being sarcastic, but I like that he only has, if you can call that a thin smile, because it shows that he's a horror writer, and they don't write about happy things. Here's The Gunslinger, the Dark Tower book 1. Only one I've read so far. I'll show you another one that I've yet to read. I think it's book number 3 later. But The Gunslinger, the Dark Tower 1. This was really good. I got this for Christmas too, and I really enjoyed it. I don't really love the plot line. Plus, it's sad what happens to the little boy. Oops, ruined it. But it's a good story. It's short. It's only about 250 pages, and I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to reading. Is it The Drawing of the Three? Yeah, I think so. Um, and yeah, I've heard some good things about the Dark Tower, but it's one of those things where you really have to like it, I guess. And so far, I'm impressed. Stephen King's classic, The Shining. This is a new signet, by the way. The newer signet, I should say. They use this for copies of the mass market paperback copies of The Stand and Salem's Lot. But this was pretty good. Not scary. The movie was scarier. Jack Nicholson is an excellent actor. Kubrick is a good director, but Stephen King, if he were here with me right now, would probably give me The Bird or something like that, you know? Because he got mad at Kubrick. Kubrick kind of changed the story. I understand why he changed the story, but it's still a great book. The book and the movie, when you watch the movie and you read the book's about 600 pages, you shouldn't have to, how do I put this? You shouldn't have to hold them together so much like people do. You know, you think of the Stand adaptation, and that was really good. You know, the Cujo adaptation I've seen parts of. That was pretty good. The adaptations from different seasons, those were all right. But the adaptation from here is just lacking if you want to hold it to the book. But in itself, it's a great movie, and this is a great book. So you should check out both. Now this is Pet Sematary. This is probably the scariest book Stephen King has ever read. Everybody says, yeah, Shining, but Stephen King himself said Pet Sematary. Just a phenomenal book. I read it last New Year's Eve, and I put that was when I put up the video, by the way. You see, I was still a little shaky because of it. I'm always shaky, but you know, this was a great story. It's about almost 400 pages, I'd say, and you just get really wrapped into it, and you really love the characters. And Judd Crandall was so good. The adaptation of this, by the way, was not that accurate, but Mr. Munster himself, Fred Gwynne, came and saved it playing Judd Crandall. He was so phenomenal, and I really, really love the book, and I really like the movie, too. But this is probably my second or third favorite Stephen King book. It is just that good. I just love it to bits. Here's a big, thick story. The Talisman by Stephen King and Peter Straub. They wrote Black House. My dad read this book and he got it for me for Christmas, saying I'd love it. There's Stephen King. Once again, I was happy. It's Peter Straub. It's about an 800-page book, 750, 800 pages. Really phenomenal. I really just love this book. It's just one of the. It's almost lighthearted. A lot of bad things happen, a lot of sad things, and you feel bad, and you hate some guys, and you love some other people. But it just tells about a boy, and I think it's so lighthearted and such a wonderful story to read. I don't think I'll ever read this book again, to be honest, though, because it's just so big, and it has so many interesting characters. My favorite was Wolf, by the way, the original one, not his brother. His brother loved Run Through the Jungle by CCR, which is not bad because I love Run Through the Jungle by CCR. Really just incredible. Really dig this book. Here's the Tommyknockers. An interesting story from all I've heard. My dad, once again, got me on to Stephen King, but he gave me this one. I think just after my birthday last year, and I read some parts of it. It's pretty good so far. I haven't gotten that deep into it. I think it's about aliens, just like kind of like Under the Dome, but not exactly. It's, once again, a Signet, you see. Good story though, about Mame, like most Stephen King books. I think I'm gonna have to get into this probably later. I'm already scheduled to read. I just finished another Stephen King book, and I'm scheduling myself, to read Salinger's Catcher in the Rye, which I'm gonna start right after this video probably. Already started, but keep going, This I'm gonna have to read though. I've heard it's very, very good. It's Stephen King. It's always good. Here's that other Dark Tower book, The Wastelands. Haven't read any of it. My dad read it. He didn't like the Dark Tower so much, but he said he kind of let down. I can't tell you much of this book. It's a neat cover. Train's very nice. This was a format they came out with in the early 90s, I think, for the Dark Tower. This is 3. Drawing of the 3 is 2. Wizard and Glass is 4, I think. But I'm gonna eventually get into this after I read the drawing of the 3. Next up is Salem's Lot. This was an incredible vampire story. Probably Dracula is the only vampire book they've ever made that was better. This is an older format, released in the early 80s, but this book, I'm telling you, you will love Ben Mears. You will love, was it Mark? Yeah, Mark. You will love Father Dean Callahan, but you won't love the guys at the Mastering House. That's all I can tell you. It is such a phenomenal book. I got it off of Amazon for a penny, plus shipping and handling. It was $4, and I just loved it so much. For a time, it was my favorite Stephen King book. In my last video, I said it was my favorite over Pet Sematary because Pet Sematary had a bad ending. This one had a really good ending. And I know I'm reading Stephen King, but I like for books to have a good ending. And I think Stephen King is criticized for bad climaxes and stuff like that. But really, I think it's a phenomenal book that you should check out when you get the chance. I'm running a little on time, so I've got a few more books to go over, so I'll catch you in part 2.